governments of Ireland, Norway and Spain have announced they will recognize an independent Palestinian state beginning on the 28th of this month. Slovenia and Malta could follow suit. So these were the scenes inside the Spanish parliament as that announcement was made. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said his country had an obligation to act and accused the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of putting the two-state solution in danger.
Prime Minister Netanyahu has no peace project for Palestine. But Netanyahu is creating so much pain and so much destruction and so much rancor in Gaza and the rest of Palestine that the viability of two-state solution is in serious danger.
Our decision to recognise Palestine should not have to wait indefinitely, especially when it is the right thing to do. It is a decision being taken on its merits. But we cannot ignore the fact that we are taking it as Palestinians in Gaza are enduring the most appalling suffering.
This is an investment in the only solution that can bring lasting peace in the Middle East. It is a strong call to other countries to do the same as we are doing today to recognize Palestine.
Well, the Israeli government has strongly opposed the move by Ireland, Norway and Spain. Its foreign ministry ordered the immediate recall of its ambassadors in all three of the countries. The Israeli finance minister Bezalel Smotrich has called for sanctions to be imposed on the Palestinian Authority. Well, we have with us Norway's foreign minister now, Espen Barth Eide, joining us from Oslo to talk about this. Foreign Minister, thank you for your time. Why did Norway decide to take this step at this time?
Well, first, because it's the right thing to do. The Palestinian people have a right to statehood, and it has been our view for many, many years. And for many of these years, we thought that our bilateral recognition will come at the end of a negotiated settlement. We have now realized that there are no such negotiations going on. But we're at the other hand realizing that the drama we've seen with the terror attacks in Israel, with the extreme violence in Gaza, with the settler violence in the West Bank, the whole situation is now getting out of hand and in the hands of extremists. And we want to raise the voice of those who still believe in a peaceful, non-violent solution, who still believe that there can be an Israeli and a Palestinian state living side by side. And our support is to those authorities, to the Palestine authorities, to the PLO, and to all those who believe that a two-state solution is possible. And we do that together with Spain and Ireland, as you said, but also with a lot of other countries that have already done this in the world. And we want also to do this as support to the Arab Peace Initiative for regional peace in the area. Okay,
you raise a lot of points. Let's just tackle them one by one. Foreign Minister, is this move anything more than symbolic at this point? Do you believe that this step on its own can bring about solutions on issues such as borders, security, the return of refugees, the status of Jerusalem, as well as other outstanding issues for the Palestinians?
That's a very good question. And the honest answer is no. I don't think that this on its own will solve any problems. There's actually no action that on its own will solve the crisis of the Middle East. It's a puzzle with many pieces. One piece is to establish a Palestinian state. Another one is normalisation with the Arab states. A third one is peace guarantees for Israel, demobilization of Hamas, strengthening the Palestine Authority. It's the sum of these different moves that will change the situation. But this is one piece of the puzzle, and it's one piece that we hold, and we are ready to play that card or lay that piece now as a contribution to a broader settlement. So in its context, it's very useful. Alone, it would only be symbolic. But this is much more than symbolic because it happens in a context.
Your statement, and I'm looking at your statement right now, so it reads this: the recognition of Palestine as a state further highlights the long-held Norwegian position that a lasting solution to the conflict in the Middle East is only achieved through a two-state solution. But Foreign Minister, for anyone who's been to the occupied territories, they see a divided and fragmented land as a result of the illegal Israeli settlements. So how do you see the advancement of that two-state solution based on 1967 borders with this reality on the ground?
So first, I want to say that what we recognize is Palestine based on the 1967 borders before June 67, which means the West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem as a shared capital. And you are, of course, absolutely right that much of that territory, particularly on the West Bank, has now been littered with illegal Israeli settlements. Now, there are provisions in the Oslo Accords and in previous negotiations for land swaps that the two sides can, you start with the recognized territory and you may exchange territory. Israel gets something, Palestine gets something. That's up to the parties. But of course, that the plethora of settlements have made this more difficult. But this is exactly why we can't wait any longer. We have to make clear that the only viable long-term settlement which can bring peace to the Palestinian people and to the Israeli people is a two-state solution.
Right.
And these two states, of course, must have logical territory. So a lot will have to change. This is difficult. You are absolutely right. But
so how far is Norway willing to go?
Are more difficult.
How far is Norway willing to go? Because some say in the absence of real pressure as well as sanctions against the violations committed by Israel, then recognition of a Palestinian state will have little effect on the daily lives of Palestinians. So is Norway prepared to impose sanctions?
So we have, for instance, Norway does not export weapons to Israel, and Norway has an advice against any commercial relations to anything related to the occupied territories, for instance. So we already have some, and we also have sanctions against certain violent settlers. But we have not seen a sort of a total ban on anything Israeli to be the right way to go, because we want a partnership with both the Palestinians and the Israelis, and we think a two-state solution requires that we are able to speak to both. However, this is one step, and as I said, it's one step among many. I think the Arab Peace Initiative, which I very much support and which an increasing number of European colleagues support, is very much about offering something that's attractive to the Palestinians, which is a path towards statehood, something that's attractive to Israel, which is normalization with the key Arab states, and also in a sense to lift that whole vision of a two-state solution back on the table. Because what we see now is that the violent and the extreme forces have dominated the scene. We want to go back to something more mediated and more peaceful. Are
you having conversations with other governments in Europe or elsewhere about taking the same step in which you've taken today? And if so, which countries are the ones to watch?
So we are indeed in close contact with several countries, and some of them are definitely looking into moving like we did in the coming weeks. But I am not their spokesperson, so I will leave it to them to declare their own policies. But there is a lot of attention going on in Europe now, and there will be meetings held in Brussels on Sunday and Monday, upcoming Sunday and Monday, where both key European and key Arab ministers would meet. One of them will be chaired by me, which is also with the new Palestinian president, Mohammed Mustafa, who will present the plans of the new Palestinian government. There will be a meeting chaired by Prince Faisal of Saudi Arabia, who leads this Arab group, and myself, with a number of Europeans and Arab present. And the next day there will be meetings with the EU. So these are all efforts trying to build a bridge between Europe and this Arab Peace Initiative, and as well as some other initiatives that are underway.
Let me ask you about some of the reaction that's come through. First of all, from Israel, and this is according to Israeli media, who's reporting that the government is considering sanctions on your country, and that Israel will impose diplomatic isolation on you, Spain and Ireland, and there will be a series of further steps taken after that. What's your response?
Well, I just want to say very calmly that Norway is a friend of Israel. We intend to remain a friend of Israel. We were very supportive when Israel was established in the late 40s. And we have consistently been striving for a settlement that is good for both Israelis and Palestinians. I realize that they have now said they will recall their ambassador. The Israeli ambassador is actually the ambassador in Oslo that I've been meeting most frequently, and if he leaves, when he comes back, I will have the coffee ready in my office, because that's always been good to talk to him, also about the issues where we disagree. And we have no plans for any reciprocal behavior. We think that diplomacy is there also to be able to communicate when you disagree on certain things. So that's Norway's position, and Israel can speak for itself.
Do you have a message for the United States? Because we understand also this just coming through the White House National Security Council spokesperson saying that President Biden believes Palestinian statehood should be realized through negotiations and not through unilateral recognition.
Well, we don't disagree. At the end of the day, we also need negotiations because there are many outstanding issues that definitely needs to be negotiated. And as I said initially, we also, for many years, believed that our bilateral recognition would come after these negotiations. The only thing that has changed is that we and some of the European countries believe that we need to make this recognition to balance the position between the Palestinians and the Israelis in these negotiations, which still has to happen, and also to frame them in regional settings. So we agree with the United States of America on the ultimate goal, which is a Palestinian state, a two-state solution, and mutual peace between the two. But here we are taking a somewhat different tactical position on when time is right for recognition. And we have duly informed and shared our view on this with the Americans. We work very closely with the Biden administration, but we also have the experience after working closely with many US administrations that sometimes superpowers can do what small countries cannot do, and sometimes small countries can do what superpowers cannot do. So I think that's a healthy and constructive partnerships when we definitely share the long-term goal.
And Foreign Minister, just one more thought from you on how you think, and if you think this step that you've taken today, as well as the other two countries, will help put an end to the war in Gaza.
I want to be very frank and honest about that. I think this in itself is not ending the war in Gaza. That's a separate track, and we need a ceasefire now. We need to stop the suffering. We need to stop the killing in Gaza. We need to stop rocket attacks from Gaza into Israel. We need to release the hostages. We need to release prisoners, and we need to see this stop. That's a separate track that we support. Then we also need to work on the humanitarian situation after a ceasefire. We're also looking deeply into that. But this is more about the political track of the long-term solution. So I think we need to be able to focus on the immediate, but also the future at the same time. And this is a contribution to the work on what will happen next on the day after. But it should be no let-up in the work to also stop the war right now.
Okay, Norway's Foreign Minister, Espen Barth Eide, thank you so much for speaking to us from Oslo.
Thank you very much.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.